What's up, plebheads? I'm Neil.
And I'm J-Dog.
Here we go. The moment that we have been waiting for. Resident Evil 2, the remake, 2019. No bullshit. Review. J-Dog, your thoughts.
Well, I think for you and I, both being huge fans of this games when we were younger,
Of course.
and seeing the reveal for this and our excitement for that, really had us hyped to the moon for this game.
It did.
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Yep.
And I think, for people looking for the 10-second version of this review, I really feel that this game delivers in spades.
Agreed.
If you are a fan of the original Resident Evil games. And I think that's really important to remember here. You are getting a remake of a game made 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I know that game lives very near and dear in the hearts of many people.
Absolutely.
You and I included.
Absolutely.
And if you are going into this thinking, I would love to experience Resident Evil 2 on a new-gen console,
On the RE engine.
you are really going to have a treat here.
Yes.
This is, without a doubt, one of the better remakes I've seen.
Oh, yeah.
I love what they've done with this game. This game absolutely brings back very fond memories for me of one of my very favorite games from PlayStation.
Yes.
I definitely would argue that Resident Evil 2 is the best game in the series. And I've thought that for many, many years. I think the way that it creates a interconnected world, multiple interweaving storylines, and relatively solid gameplay was pretty much ahead of its time when it was released. I really enjoyed it. And what Capcom has done here is basically kind of taken those things and just updated them enough that the game feels new, feels like it's worth another playthrough,
Yes.
but not at the expense of ruining what made the game excellent in the first place. It keeps that core Resident Evil vibe, right? When we talk about Resident Evil, we're talking about two different games, two different series as far as I'm concerned. You have Resident Evil 1 through 4 and 7, for the most part. And then you have Resident Evil 5 and 6. And whatever happened in the development here, got Capcom so sidetracked that they thought they needed to take Resident Evil and make it into a run-and-gun shooter.
The same can be said about Dead Space.
Or Dead Space, or some of these other games that have kind of lost their way and went away from what was originally attractive about those games in the first place, and what fans loved about them. And so I didn't want to see this come out and be a remake in the sense that, oh, we're taking a game, we're calling it Resident Evil, and it's not Resident Evil anymore, right? It's a game of run and gun, it's a game of, fast-paced action. That's not what the series was, okay, at least initially. And it's not what you and I found so compelling about it. And I'm very happy to say that that is not the case here. You will get a Resident Evil 2
Resident
remake
Evil.
and a Resident Evil game.
You will get a Resident Evil, damn it.
And, I think you just start off and you talk about the basic things, right?
Well,
No.
Before we jump into it, I actually have just something a generalization I want to make. Comparing it to the original from '98, this game is almost completely similar. I recognized rooms, regardless of what engine they're built on. I recognized locations. And it felt so completely similar. So, like, I'm basically playing the same game, but it still maintained an air of mystique and a difference. It felt different,
Fresh.
but it's still similar. And they have a few new-ish feeling locations, and that keeps it feeling fresh, like you said. And I loved it. Let's talk about the puzzles in this game. If I had to sum it up in 10 seconds or less, they're smart, they're simple, they require just a little bit of thinking, planning, and backtracking sometimes. But if you plan ahead, damn, I mean, you can blow through them.
Well, I think that's a good point. I never thought there was anything in this game that was mind-numbingly difficult.
No.
Or, I think that the key here for me was pacing, right?
Fantastic.
I felt this game was exceptionally well paced. Our first playthrough lasted 6 hours,
Yep.
right?
Which is about what I expected.
And then we were able to start completing this game in about 3 hours when we had pretty good understanding of what needed to happen. And I think that's one of the things about Resident Evil games is they do lend to speedrunning.
Yep.
In a lot of cases, if you know what you're doing, you know what's important and what's not, you can motor through these games once you understand what's being asked of you. But that initial playthrough, and that's kind of the playthrough I want to base my review on, because that was when it was really fresh, right?
Yes.
And hey, I haven't played the game in a good at least 15 to 16 years, I'd say.
It's been at least 10 years for me.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me. So for me, this was a nice kind of look back at the game, so to speak, and there's a lot of those aha moments where I really remembered things,
And you say a look back. Let me comment on that for a moment. You say a look back. Just further supporting my comment of it feels the same, but it's different enough.
Yep. And I never felt the pace in this game dredged, right? Or really slowed down where I felt like I was in quicksand. I felt that, for the most part, I had a relatively good idea of where I needed to go next. I would say that in order to be really adept at this game and complete it maybe on the harder difficulties, you need to have a pretty good spatial memory as far as being able to remember where rooms are located, if you want to really know how to run past certain enemies and things like that.
Yes, I agree.
But for the most part, even when we weren't sure where everything was and kind of feeling our way through it, I didn't feel as though there were significant gaps in interest or enthusiasm in this game. Sometimes you'll get into a game and it'll have a great start, right? And then the middle just fucking drags, right?
And it sucks ass.
And almost to the point where you get bored with it and you just want to power through. You start pulling up a guide, and you just start doing things, checking it off, and just so you can get done with it.
Been there, done it.
I did not feel that way here.
I didn't either.
And I felt that for the most part, this game was an engrossing 6 hours. And I think that's important to talk about, because we get these games these days, right, that are like biggest open world ever created, 500 hours of content, all this shit. I'd rather have 6 hours of memorable content.
Yeah, no shit.
And truthfully, you're not, I would say if you're only looking to play through this game once, you get this, you wait for sale here.
$20.
This game is meant to be played multiple times.
Absolutely. You can't see it all in one playthrough.
But that being said, I'd rather have 6 hours of memorable content than 500 hours of content I'm bored out of my mind doing.
Agree 100%.
And as games get bigger, as they get more bloated, okay, as they get more and more and more,
more is not always better.
It isn't. And I feel like in a lot of cases, games have just lost the ability to tell a compelling narrative. Right? This is a game I'm going to remember, ladies and gentlemen. This is a game that I'm going to talk about for a while.
Well, you heard me today.
This is a game we're going to play through 4 times.
I'm on my 4th, going for 5.
And we're going to have fun playing through it multiple times. And it feels like you're accomplishing something each time.
Yep.
And this is really, really important.
Yeah.
And
it didn't depart too far from the original, though. And I liked that. It didn't try, like, when I played the Resident Evil 1 remake, there's a lot of new stuff. It's not a totally new game, but there's a lot of new stuff. For the most part, this game is a rebuild on the RE engine. And that's not a bad thing.
no.
But there's some new things. I wouldn't say there's a lot of new things. I remember the majority of this game. As I was doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing this. Mm-hmm. Or maybe one puzzle was a little different here. Or it was a different item instead of one thing or the other thing. Or maybe the plugs were in a different area. Or, the clock puzzle was here instead of there, and you did this instead of that. But as compared to the Resident Evil 1 remake that came for GameCube, this wasn't as different as the original. I like this.
I did too.
I did like this, and had this been more like the Resident Evil 1 remake, where it was, I would say, significantly different in some areas, I don't think I would have minded that either. I had a pretty open mind to this when it was coming out.
Yeah, and I did too. I was looking for there to be a certain level of respect shown to the original.
Familiarity.
Yeah, that was important to me. I did not want Resident Evil 2 Remake to be some sort of grandiose difference to what I had originally played. And I did not see that here. I saw a game that understood what it was trying to do. We talk about this a lot. We talk about games having an identity, right? And as, you know, we go into this discussion of games getting bigger and trying to copy and trying to add in everything from every other genre, games lose identities. This game maintains an identity, a Resident Evil identity. And that is a major positive.
I'm with you.
Okay?
With
If you're not looking for a Resident Evil game,
you shouldn't buy it. You shouldn't even play it.
I wouldn't recommend this.
No recommendation if you're not looking for a Resident Evil game. You'll be disappointed.
You know, I look at it, and for me, you just look at the atmosphere in this game.
Oh, fuck.
The lighting, the sounds, the zombies kind of giving that growl, or the zombies being dead on the floor, but not exactly dead.
They ain't dead.
The way they hide in plain sight,
yeah, it's fantastic.
and then come alive after maybe you complete a puzzle or something, is really awesome. Because I end up thinking to myself, wait, was he there when I walked in the room? And it does make you do a double take. The game is so well created, I think, in that respect, that it creates this 6-hour tension, so to speak. This playthrough is full of tension. I rarely feel that the tension drops. And
because it rarely does.
You don't feel safe in this game. And I think that's a major accomplishment. How many games do you go in, maybe you feel a little under leveled, or so to speak, at the start, but after grinding or whatever, or finding tons of ammo or upgrading your weapons, you feel invincible. I never felt invincible in this game. I felt like my character's life was in danger at all times.
I just unlocked the unlimited ammo samurai edge as of the recording of this video.
Well, maybe you'll feel invincible now.
I do feel invincible now. I do, because when you can't run out of ammo, it's as long as you pace it right, and as long as you give enough space between yourself and the enemies, it's kind of hard to fuck it up.
Well,
I'll find a way to do it.
I would say that's not a Resident Evil game.
It's not. It's not. But that's, you also need to complete the game on S ranking to even touch that.
Sure.
So let me make
comparing it from the original. I'm talking when you're first playing through
you're
this.
right. No, you're right.
I would say that I never felt safe.
Let's talk about atmosphere. You're on that topic right now. I gotta say, epic atmosphere. Loved it. Loved every damn second of it. At times, incredibly intense. I'm gonna say this. I have 2 points to make on this. First of all, you need to be careful to clear out the enemies in some parts of the game, because it can make it so much easier if you do. When you first encounter Mr. X in the A playthrough, if you've cleared out the enemies, if you've gone back in and cleared out the enemies previous, it makes dealing with him so much easier, because all you have to do is avoid like 2 lickers, and he'll never catch you. Intense. Tension. Let's talk about Mr. X for a second. First playthrough, of course he's a pain in the ass. But the more I get used to him and experience him, he's a minor inconvenience now. He's just kind of like, oh, he's there. The second and third time I played through the game, he never touched me once. He was never an inconvenience. He never forced me to make a decision on the fly. I was 100% prepared for him. When I played through as Leon, no, sir. I was not ready for that. He is crazy the first time you experience him.
Well, and I think that's some of the cool things about this game. And again, talking about your first playthrough and trying to figure out how to deal with these different threats.
Yes.
And what is and isn't effective is part of this game's challenge.
Yes.
And again, maybe we've seen some of these things in game design since, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you think, boy, this was created in '98. this was something else.
Pretty fucking good.
And there's some. I think about like the little things, right, that they've added into this. The combining on the fly.
Love it. Great quality of life change.
So it's just minor changes to bring the game into that next century, so to speak, that really make it feel like, yes, this doesn't quite have that immense level of backtracking, that immense level of inventory management. There is still some there.
There's inventory management.
Don't get me wrong, it's still there.
Absolutely.
But it's not nearly the focus of the game, so to speak, where I felt like the original games really got bogged down with that. I mean, you think of, I think if it was Resident Evil 1 playing as Chris, right? With 6 inventory slots. I mean, holy fuck. That was back and forth like crazy.
That was brutal at times.
And that's what I mean by, I think, the way they looked at this and said, okay, we don't want to get this thing slogged down in, oh, you can't pick up this box of ammo because you don't have any free slots, right? It wouldn't make sense in the real world, right, that you couldn't just combine the ammo together. So I look at a lot of that stuff and I think these are the type of changes I would have wanted in a remake, right, to make this more compelling. And I think Capcom did an excellent, excellent job of that. Absolutely excellent. I think the storytelling in this game is good. I thought it was good, way back 20 years ago.
Just a little updated, some conversations.
I think the voice acting was excellent here. I think we talked about the atmospheric sounds. The lickers are fucking terrifying in this game. They're the most terrifying enemy in this game.
Yeah, the lickers, and then I
Holy
would say the ivies as well are very terrifying.
Just their screeches.
Yeah.
There is a certain, and you can't always see them. The way they blend into the darkness and the shadows actually create a really intense level of you have to be on your toes at all time.
The thing about the lickers is you can really exploit that blind. You can exploit it. And it's really cool to walk down a hallway and have a licker standing on the other side on the wall, basically like snarling at you, and you just walk right past it. I think that's so neat.
There is a... Remember when we played Outlast a few years ago? The original Outlast game?
Yeah.
There was a certain level in Outlast, a certain quality to Outlast that really made me think of these original Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
Just in the way that the game felt really difficult until you kind of understood what you were dealing with.
Yep.
And how once you really knew what you were doing in Outlast, you could kind of speedrun that bad boy in 45 minutes.
Once you decode the scares in a game like that, it's kind of like, well, wait a second now. It's not really like you hear loud music and you think he's right behind you, and he's a hallway and a half away. Mm-hmm. He's nowhere near you. But, the game blends different elements together to get you to react. And yes. I think that's really cool, and I think this game does that really well, too.
It does. And, side note, Ada Wong looks really good in this game.
I want to talk about the boss fights. I have a positive and a negative here. First of all, I thought the boss fights, in general, were pretty fun. Pretty much what I remember, interesting. I liked playing through them and trying different strategies. I love fighting that final boss with a knife. Thought that was. Didn't you love that?
Yeah, it was fucking
thought
crazy.
That was so fucking cool.
I was like, "Are you really gonna fight this thing with your fucking combat knife?"
Hey, it works. It worked damn good too.
Yeah, it did.
And so I remember that, and I remember fighting G the first time and switching to my pistol and using the pistol to fight him, because I had used like 17 or 18 shotgun rounds as Leon, thinking, well, that's all my fucking ammo.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I used 2 shotgun rounds because I used my pistol and I used the grenades. Using the items at your disposal can absolutely change the game. And I thought that was so cool to see those differences just based on how you play. Based on where you shoot the enemies and how you shoot the enemies, focusing on the weak points. You say that's gaming 101, but still, I found it very interesting. One thing that kind of annoyed me. Now, this could just be coincidence, and I am willing to accept it as that. But it also felt like maybe there was a little bit of reality here. Was the boss fights, particularly the final boss fight, felt very scripted. It felt, when your health gets to a certain point after you've done a certain amount of damage, this boss is going to fall. And I saw that. I was knifing and Gatling gunning and just dominating the final boss as Claire. Just dominating. And he hit me, and I hit him, and he went up and jumped down, and I hit him some more. And then, I was really hitting him, like, more than I'd ever hit him before, but he wasn't going down. And finally he hit me and took me down to danger with no healing items left. And as soon as that happened, I hit him with 1 or 2 more bullets or 3 more bullets from the Gatling gun, and he went down and started crawling to the point where he crawls for 30 seconds and the fight's over.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is programmed. Unless you really play a perfect fight, then maybe it's a little bit different. But I felt like that was sort of programmed. And it kind of annoyed me. Because it seemed that way. So I don't know if that's a real thing, or if it's just dumb luck, or if it's just something I noticed because I was fighting him the right and wrong way at the same time. I don't know. You know, anybody in the comments, let me know if that happened to you. But it felt like the fight with certain bosses didn't end until you were literally at one hit.
Yeah. I would say the boss fights just in general are probably the weakest overall part of the game from a execution standpoint. You know, I have very little negative to discuss here.
Yeah.
I would just say the gunplay and camera control is just okay with the boss fights. And, you know, more to your point about them almost being, whether it's on a timer or the actual amount of damage and bullets you do are almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, even with Leon, right? You survive a while, finally they kick down the rocket launcher, right? So, I would say just in general, the boss fights, if I had to pick one part of the game that didn't thrill me, that would be it.
Okay.
Yes, the bosses are horrifying. Yes, they make sense with the story. Yes, they make sense as part of the remake. And, you know, you can't get rid of G and you can't get rid of Mr. X and some of this stuff.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
It wouldn't be the same game. But I certainly felt that your criticism there is valid. The fights feel scripted. They feel like they end when they're going to end. They feel like your efforts, so to speak, in the fight are not as rewarded as they are in the rest of the game, I would say. It's also noticeable with other enemies as well. It seems sometimes you can shoot a zombie from across the hall and his head will explode with a pistol.
There's a chance.
Well, okay. And then you can shoot him 8 times, point blank, and he'll keep coming after you.
It's already been discussed that there is a chance if you headshot that it would be an insta-kill.
Well, okay.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree. I think that's stupid. But it has been openly discussed that there is a % chance per headshot you will insta-kill.
Well, you want to hope you're lucky then.
I got lucky on some occasions.
Yeah. When you're fighting fast enemies in this game, it is tough to really control. You know, your aim and then your ability to move away. I understand that's to keep it intense.
Of course.
And that does work very well.
Absolutely.
You're going to get hit. You're going to get your ass beat up a little bit in this game, especially if you're a novice player. But that's where I do feel the game struggles a bit with gameplay. But again, minor gripe. It's something you can learn to avoid, right? It's something you can learn to cope with. It's not game breaking by any means.
Here's something I want to talk about that I don't always talk about. Boss themes. In fact, I don't know if I've ever talked about it during an OBS review. First of all, the music and the atmosphere in this game, like I've said before, are fantastic. The boss theme, particularly the ending boss for Leon's playthrough, spoiler alert, so if you don't want to hear this, stop watching. I'm giving you a chance. Fair warning. The final boss for Leon's gameplay in Scenario A is the Mr. X Tyrant after he transforms. The music in that fight, the way Mr. X looks, everything about it, is a direct callback to the final fight with the Tyrant in Resident Evil 1. And that fight, when I grabbed that rocket launcher and basically no-scoped him when we were playing, and we couldn't believe I had gotten him, that he didn't kill me because I had one hit left, was fucking amazing. It
Awesome
was
moment.
such a cool moment. The music was intense. It was exciting. It kind of reminded me of like that, not to sound like certain games journalists, but it did remind me of like the Dark Souls final bosses. Very, very memorable music. Very
Memorable kill.
yes, and it really had my heart pounding.
Yeah. Very few games do that.
Yeah.
Very few.
I loved Leon's final boss fight in this game. The Mr. X Tyrant was phenomenal. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best boss fights I've ever had. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's cliche. Shoot him in the beating heart, hit him enough, weaken him, kill him. I mean, yes, it is cliche, but it's exactly the fight I wanted it to be. It was incredible. It's a race to the rocket launcher. Equip it. Don't panic. Blow him in half. Get the fuck out of Dodge. Mm-hmm. And then after you beat him, the door opens and 3-4 more zombies come through the door. So you better have a shot, or you better have some ammo left, or you're fucked. Loved it. I freaking loved that final boss. The music, everything, phenomenal. Phenomenal.
You know, I just think the way that the game kind of opens up, right? You start off and the game feels very contained, very relatively linear, for the most part. And the further you go, the more shortcuts and more backtracks you open until all of a sudden you have a direct route, basically from the end of the game to the start of the game.
Yeah.
In under 5 minutes for sure, back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Which is, to me, incredible. Because when you get here and you start in this game, it feels very small.
Yeah.
It feels very claustrophobic.
Yes. I'm with you.
And it's amazing to me how they created this, you know, thinking back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
A game that almost opens up in a spiral, right?
Yeah.
And the more that you open, the more easy it is to access.
Yeah.
And it was really neat to see that. I really appreciated that about this game. I think more so on this playthrough with kind of the newer gen graphics and stuff than I did initially.
I'm with you 100%. So let's talk about that RE engine. For me, the RE engine, it was a perfect fit for this game. Some of the game models, they seem oddly familiar from like RE7. In fact, I actually think there's some similar game models, like some same models used in the game. Really like it. Similar assets. That was cool. Controls, fantastic. And I like how the game doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't tell you to hit down and circle or down and B to turn to insta-turn. But you can. Mm-hmm. You can do that in most Resident Evils now, but a lot of people don't know that. I love it. Push in the left stick to run. Fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about controls. Aiming is fine. It's annoying sometimes, but not because I'm a bad aimer, because the fucking zombies are...
The zombies have a certain sense of movement in this game that was absolutely not present in the original games.
I don't know if it could be.
No, and I don't think it could either. But you just look whether it's the way the zombies break through the doors,
I like that.
The way the zombies lunge for you, the way they kind of stumble and their heads sway. It is a little more difficult to aim here than it was in the original games, where obviously you had the static cameras and your tanky character that just basically had her gun and you tried to figure out where she was pointing it.
Miss. The fuck? God damn it, it's my last shot.
But here, in order, I think, to compensate for that, because we wouldn't want to create the game like that now. So in order to compensate for that, you've got to create enemies that are a little more dynamic, right, than just this the whole time, right? And you look at the way these enemies move, the way they reach for you, the way they lunge for you. yeah, the enemies are horrific in this game.
The zombies they really stepped up the zombies.
You look at the zombies in a game like The Walking Dead or some of these half-baked zombie games that have come out. They're nothing like this. One zombie in this game is a terrifying ordeal. It takes 600 of them in The Walking Dead to be scary.
Yeah.
This one zombie here is a legitimate ordeal.
And it can be for sure.
And I think that is a major accomplishment here.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be overlooked. Enemy design, enemy movement, enemy AI in this game, for the most part, really good. Really good. Now, obviously, there's some weird stuff where enemies can't go through certain doors and different things. Or they're stuck in rooms and they're like pawing at the fake wall.
Yeah.
You know, there's some of that.
You
weird
get
shit.
through like a segment, and you get through like one of those fences, right? The fenced off area, and you stand there, and Mr. X just stops and looks at you and turns and walks away. Like, I'm right fucking here, dude. Come get me.
Yeah. So there's definitely some of that weird stuff.
But I think that some of that is a necessity too.
Yeah.
So I mean, because you are playing a game, it's not real life. It's a game.
I'm willing to forgive it. I don't particularly like it.
I don't either.
I will forgive it, though. But, yeah, it is strange. But this type of stuff, right? The way the enemies kind of shamble towards you more.
And half the time they dodge your shots.
They actually end up being some of the harder enemies to hit when you talk about zombies, right?
Yeah.
They did a good job in creating a difficulty that is accomplishable,
Yes.
but still makes you feel like, hey, killing this guy was something to be proud of. You know, it wasn't just, by the grace of God, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was
gotcha.
something that actually took some skill. So I liked that a lot about this game.
So I remember during a live stream, one of our subscribers asked if I would like to see DLC for Sherry or other characters in the game, like that you could buy and play. My initial comments for Sherry were no. I don't really want to pay to play as her, but in this game, again, spoiler alert, you do play as Sherry in a certain segment of this game in Claire's playthrough. And what I want to say about that is, I thought the Chief Irons boss fight as Sherry, the hide and seek segment, was really well done. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and that was intense, because you can't defend yourself as her. You know, if you were playing as Claire, at least you feel like you could kick him in the nuts and break his neck or something, you know? Like, you'd feel like you could defend yourself. As Sherry, though, as a young girl, as a little kid, you feel helpless. And I really liked that. It was creepy. Irons was fucking creepy. Well done. The reimagining for him was, or at least, maybe not the reimagining, but like the bringing him into the, into the future here was perfect. However they did him.
He's creepy AF.
He is wonderfully creepy.
Yep.
And it just felt like, keep this fucking dude away from me. Loved it. Absolutely loved playing as Sherry. That whole segment, that whole hide and seek segment was fantastic. I'd also like to make a few comments about the fourth survivor mode and the tofu survivor mode. I love that they are still unlockable, that they are not paid DLC.
That's awesome.
I know sometimes as we come, as companies look to make money more and more, that becomes a thing. And I understand that. I'm a realist. But I like that they stay true to the beat the game on both difficulties, or beat the game both scenario A's and both scenario B's to unlock Fourth Survivor, and then beat Fourth Survivor to unlock Tofu Survivor. Love that. Think that is so damn cool. Absolutely love that they included that it's not paid DLC. Another thing that I think is neat is we are getting, to my knowledge, free Ghost Survivors DLC later in February of 2019. And Ghost Survivors, of course, playing as some of the other side characters in the game. I think that's really cool, that it's going to be free and not paid.
Yeah, I think that Capcom's just general support over the last year and a half, whether it be Monster Hunter or this game, has been really great.
Yeah.
They've made their $60 games feel like $60 games, right? I feel okay with day one-ing a game like this, right? When I'm going to get that type of content, when I'm going to get 4 playthroughs, basically, of this game, and then unlock 2 more modes to play through, and then get...
And still have hardcore modes on both scenarios to play through.
True. So, you look at that, basically, I recommend this game for everyone, except for somebody who wants to play through it only one time. If your goal here is to play through one time, then I wait here. Right? Then this is not going to be worth your $60. I mean, no matter what.
Yeah.
It's a great game, but realistically, there's no point in, going and paying that type of money for it. That being said, if you're looking to hit that S rank, if you're looking to do your A, B playthroughs, if you're looking to do your second run playthroughs, you've got great content here. You're going to have a blast with this. This is a bona fide grade A buy, ladies and gentlemen, for people who are fans of the original game, for people who would love to revisit that original on an updated console. This is a bona fide...
Or even on PC.
Bona fide buy. I mean, no doubt about it. I had an absolute blast watching you play this.
Still watching you play it.
I can watch you play it again. That's one of the great things about Resident Evil. You can sit down and once you know the game, you can complete it in an afternoon.
Yep.
There is something to be said for that. There isn't. Not every game has to be a 500-hour epic, right? Being able to complete this in a sitting is kind of cool, and it's fun, and it's enjoyable, and it's enjoyable the third time, and it's enjoyable the fourth time.
I'm with you.
That is really special, and that's something that's been lost in a lot of games. So, yeah, I absolutely recommend this. 100%.
I had a few commenters, a few different people. I think people have maybe started to figure out that they're not going to convince us to think one way or the other. But a couple people tried to sway me, with like, well, you can't shoot out windows, there's no crows, no spiders, no this, no that. This isn't in the game, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, so what? I'm going to experience what they're bringing, and what I've seen in trailers and reactions and gameplays has been, I'm excited for it. I was excited for it. I mean, why would I want to trash up my experience? Try to nitpick little things and look for every little thing to complain about. And I get it. I get the disappointment with that, for sure. But for me, it was like, no crows?
No annoying ass crows?
No annoying bitch ass crows that can fucking suck a dick? Alright, get them out of there. But, to address that, like, you can't shoot out windows. Couldn't shoot out windows in the 1998 version either, to my knowledge.
I don't think so.
I don't remember it. So, I mean, this is supposed to be a remake of the 1998, so I'm okay with that. I don't have any problem, no gripes with that at all. I was not upset with that one darn bit.
Yeah, overall, my nitpicks here with this game are minor. There isn't anything here that I say significantly detracts from the experience. I think this is a massively fun game, a game that is well worth playing, and if you are a fan of the original, you're going to be a fan of this remake. And I think you're going to get those 4+ playthroughs out of it, and you're going to get your money's worth, and that's why I recommend it wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
This is a $60 game
for me,
for fans. Absolutely.
For me, this is a $60 recommendation. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I have had an absolute blast playing this game. Rarely do I say a game is a 10 out of 10.
Well, rarely do we play a game more than once.
Yeah.
Through more than once anymore.
It is.
With how many games come out now.
This is a remake, and I actually didn't know if I would say this. This is a remake that is as good as the original game. And that's rare. because
I agree.
I was thinking about this morning as I was writing down my notes. Do I say it's better than the original? Because I thought that too. Is this actually better than Resident Evil 2?
Well, I think obviously it plays better. I think when you compare it to what came out right 1998, 99 in those time frames, the game was it seems so far ahead of its time that it might be a little tough to say now when you look at a game. Maybe, you've had the Dark Souls series come out and some of these games that have really pushed the boundaries of storytelling and immersive environments. So it might be hard to say that it maybe surpasses it when you compare it to other options in the current time frame.
Yeah.
But I certainly think you can be very happy to buy this, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry, okay, did they take Resident Evil 2 and bastardize it?
Yeah.
And I think that's a fear. When you hear
it was for a lot of people.
When you hear they're remaking a game, the initial thought is, oh, great. It's one of my favorite games. Please don't fuck this up. Please don't give me a shit experience that's going to ruin my, my past thoughts here.
Please don't make this be Resident Evil 6.
Yeah. And that didn't happen here. It didn't happen here, guys. This is a great remake. This is
10 out of 10, full recommendation.
a buy.
Buy it $60 if you want to play through it more than once and get the full experience. If you want to play it once, wait for $20 sale.
Yep. So depending on where you're at with this, and where you're at with how many times you're going to play it, and again, if you're not going to play it more than once, I guess I'm kind of wondering why you're getting it in the first place.
Kind of wondering why you're watching this.
You're going to get a half an experience, to be honest with you.
You need to play through both campaigns to get the full game experience.
Yeah. So
you have to play through it at least twice.
I do highly recommend, if you are thinking of getting this, that you are going to play at least twice through this game.
Yeah.
To do anything less is a disservice.
Yeah.
And we don't recommend it.
No, not at all.
Gripes are minor here.
Very minor.
As far as a remake goes, this is spectacular.
Yeah, it's about as good of a remake as you can get.
We love it. So.
Yep. 10 out of 10. Full recommendation. Absolutely fantastic. Few gripes.
Buy it.
I'm not somebody that's going to go and take each little minor thing and let it ruin my day. This game was fantastic.
I'm glad I had a chance to play it. I'm glad Capcom gave it the respect it deserves, because I think they did.
When you do a remake like this, you need to do that.
Yep.
It's on my radar for Game of the Year.
We're starting off 2019 very well.
Fuck, is this a good start? You guys can let us know your thoughts about the Resident Evil 2 remake down below in the comments. Let us know what you thought. Like the video if you enjoyed this honest, no BS breakdown and review for the Resident Evil 2 remake here in 2019. And we'll see each and every one of you right here next time for more honest, real content like this.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Good night.
GG, ya plebs.